Hello, Daniel King here with a quick report on Game 6 of the Anand Gelfand World Championship match. We're now at the halfway stage and so far neither player has managed to draw blood. Today's game was also drawn and it rather followed the pattern of their previous games. White had a slight advantage and Black, through accurate defence, managed to neutralise the game. Let's take a look at what happened. Gelfand had the white pieces and repeated his customary d4, and Anand played the Slav as he's done in previous games, and this has all been played before in the match. And now comes the first new move, or at least new move for the match. Gelfand tried, instead of b3, he played queen c2. And well, probably as you can see in the notation, in my database I found 688 games with this line, so you can see it's hardly a massive surprise. Anand played the approved move. He played the most popular move, that is c5. Now this looks slightly odd to play the pawn forward c6 and then to move it up to c5 immediately, but the point is, once the queen has moved off the d file, then there's a little less pressure on the d file, but also in opening the c file, what Black is trying to do is develop very quickly and get a hit against the queen. Now this is all very abstract, but all will become clearer as the game goes on, hopefully. So let's see what happens. Gelfand took in the middle, and we're heading for a kind of isolated queen's pawn position. So here's the point. Anand is developing very quickly. I should say that Gelfand has had this position before. Instead of castles, he just took on c5, and you get this so-called isolated queen's pawn position, but in essence the position is rather similar to the one that was reached in the game. So okay, today he played castles, probably the most popular move. And now you can see Anand developing his queen side very, very quickly, and the point is to get this rook in the corner into the game so that it gains a tempo on White's queen on c2. This is the point of Black's play. Okay, Gelfand played rook d1. Always good to play your rook opposite the queen. Anand took on d4. Okay, this is all fine, and that means he can bring the bishop out with tempo, hitting the rook, and the rook, well, best thing to do is just go back. And now here's a good move from Anand. Queen e7, getting his queen out of the line of the rook on d1. So Gelfand now attacked the pawn. So you notice he's got knight, bishop and rook attacking this pawn, only two defenders. So what do? Well, in previous games in this line, Black has played rook d8, which is okay, and in a couple of games, well, Black has got a reasonable position. But really, you want that rook hassling White's queen. And Anand played a new move here. Instead of protecting that pawn, he simply castled. Now this is a strong new move. So what it means is he can still bring his rook to the c file, and if necessary he can always bring the king's rook over to defend the pawn. So the only real way for White to exploit this is by taking that pawn. Let's see what happens. This is what Gelfand did. So he took this pawn. So a pawn sacrifice, but the point is this: the rook comes to the c file very quickly to hassle the queen. So this is the whole point of the variation. And you'll notice that in taking that pawn, in a sense, White has lost time. It means he hasn't been able to develop his own queen side. And this is the reason why Black has decent compensation here. He gets his pieces into play quicker than White. And you'll notice there's a discovered attack here against the queen. And here Gelfand simply gave back the pawn straight away. Afterwards he was asked, well, why didn't you try to hang on to the pawn? And he said, well, I couldn't see a way to develop my queen side. Well, let's try to understand what he means by that. Supposing the queen moves out of the line of the rook, say queen e2. well, black plays queen e4. So what we're doing is we're trying to control this square and maybe get the rook in. So if, let's say, white blocks this out with queen d3, we can trade and now bring the king's rook over. Well, the queen's rook or king's rook, it doesn't matter actually. White has to exchange. So yeah, next rook comes into play. Now we're threatening a checkmate. You'll notice white still can't develop the queen side. So the king comes over, we give a check, and the rook comes here. Well, black can't win the pawn back, but I can move the bishop round here, and after this move play bishop f6, and you'll notice, well, white is simply not going to be able to develop his pieces successfully. Black has excellent compensation for the pawn. Well, probably the positions should still be drawn, but still, what's clear is that black has no difficulties here at all. Okay, let's go back. What else could white try? What about, well, in that variation, perhaps rook d1 instead. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a glass of water. But then we play bishop e7, and well, a rook is ready to come down here, and if bishop d2 trying to develop, then I think black is very, very active indeed. You know, if anyone is better here, it could be black. I mean, there are other variations, but basically black always has decent compensation for the pawn. So Gelfand simply gave the pawn back straight away. So black used the discovered attack and played bishop c3. So at least he's managed to bring his bishop to a nice protected square where it's pointing at the king side. And here Anand said afterwards that he realised he had to be very careful, because obviously white's pieces are more active than black's. This bishop is unprotected. Let's see how he did it. First of all, nice move, queen e6, because if that's taken, then we open up a line here. So queen f3, the queen has to go back to get anything in this position. Now f6 blunts that bishop, good play. Gelfand tried h4. Well, that gives the king an escape square, but also you can perhaps use the h-pawn to chip open black's king. But now another excellent move from Anand. Accurate play. What he wants to do is exchange off all the heavy pieces. So for example, if rook d1, then black exchanges, keep exchanging, and in the bishop ending, it doesn't matter that these pawns are split. Bishop endings are notoriously drawish. That would just be a draw. So Gelfand took on d8, but even so, there's not a lot that's going on here. Tried rook e1. You might try h6, but actually this can just be taken after bishop f6. Remember, there are problems on the f file. There's a pin coming. Let's go back. So he tried rook e1. King f7 covers some squares. And now g4. And now, okay, having said that bishop endings are often usually no problem at all, it may not be the best to play rook e8. Some endings are more equal than others. This one could still be a problem. Let me show you a nice little maneuver that white has here. And in this position play f5, and in that way lock this pawn on a dark square, so that black always has to take care of it, and then maybe the king wanders over to the queen side, and you never know. Black is probably still drawing, but there's some suffering there. Okay, so instead Anand played very well, bishop d4, and this just leads to a drawn endgame. Gelfand played rook c1, Anand took, and after rook d4, actually the players agreed a draw without, well, making any more moves. Okay, what happens? Let's see. After rook d4, if f3, then the problem is that the king is now exposed, and you take the pawn on b2. Well, that's obviously completely equal. And if rook c6, check, and now just a5. So it's 4 pawns each. Well, it's a completely drawn rook and pawn ending. So, accurate play again from both players. It seems that perfect play, I'm afraid, doesn't always produce exciting chess. I'll be posting another clip tomorrow on the rest day with hopefully some more exciting chess than this, but I'm going to have to turn to the US Championship, I think, to get some more exciting material. So, see you soon.